Shows. I'm Chili Falls coming to you from Virginia. And of course, we got Pete over there. He talks funny. He's from over there in London. And we got Minnesota John. And we got a special guest this week, Nate Valier, who's up in Station Harbor, Alaska. That's up near Juneau. So, Nate, welcome aboard. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of background. I know you've spent some time in the airline business and how you ended up in Alaska and got this new tour and excursion company going.
Well, thanks. Actually, I moved here from Florida. I was asked to come up in 2009 to oversee a airline that had just been purchased from a local individual. And, you know, I was living in Key West at the time, which is also a very big cruise destination. And I was talking to all my friends about it, and they said, "Oh, yeah, you'll love Juneau." And so I came up in February, where it's a little bit chilly, rainy, and cloudy and coldy, compared to Florida, you know, where Key West, it's always sunny. And that's kind of how I got my start up here in Alaska. Fell in love and stayed. You know, I got to know my neighbors. I got to understand a sense of community. You know, and as you get older, you know, your values change. So it's less partying, less Duval crawls, and so forth. And so I fell in love with the people up here. And of course, you know, despite the rain today, it's remarkably beautiful still. And so that's why I moved up here. And then with my airline work, what I would do with the in terms of my career, it was just easy to commute. You know, pilots and flight attendants do the same. And with my job being in charge of revenue and sales and marketing, it was, you know, it's easier to just kind of sit back and work from a computer from, you know, the view we have here versus, you know, always being, you know, in the office. So luckily I worked for a company and still do that allows me to work remote.
Awesome. I was supposed to be up there last week. So I'm one of the ones that got canceled out.
Oh, May is actually the best time to go. I've never understood why the cruise lines discount it so much, because May is typically our summer season. You know, the rain behind me is what people see most summer. You know, if it's not raining sideways, then you feel like you're in a bathtub. Last summer was a little bit different. You know, we did have a lot of sun and record heat. But typically when people think of Alaska, you know, you see these beautiful pictures, you know, on all the brochures for Princess and Holland America and Norwegian. And I think they find the one day in the summer, you know, where it's not raining sideways. So actually May is really the best time to come up here.
Are y'all, is the season dead completely for this year?
It's been obliterated. And that's where I sent Pete some pictures to show you guys. I mean, Juneau is kind of a political hotbed. You know, we get some very opinionated people here who don't like the cruise ships, who would rather they not show up. And I think that, unfortunate to COVID, you know, we're seeing the effects of that. You know, we're seeing a completely empty port. You know, this is a picture from outside the wharf, and there should be 5 cruise ships here. Yeah. And so what you're looking at, of course, are the 2 new docks that we built for the larger ships. This is the Seawalk looking on Douglas. As you can see, very beautiful, pretty, but empty. You know, there should be 8,000 people in port today, and we have 0. You know, that's a slightly different pic, but we can go back to that one. And I think that the effect has just been remarkable. I mean, I'll turn around and show you guys. You know, I'm in Statler Harbor in Juneau. Here's some wind, but it's a full harbor.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, it should be empty. Every single one of those stalls should be empty.
I've actually got a question for you, Nate, actually, because I'm booked to go for my first ever cruise to Alaska. I was meant to go next year, but I've changed it for the year later. It's on the Norwegian Jewel, and it's in October, around about the middle of October, and it goes from Vancouver into Alaska and finish off in LA. Question, I mean, is October a good time to go cruising to Alaska?
Believe it or not, you're going to see things that most people in the summer don't. You'll have a very good chance of seeing northern lights, especially on the Jewel. The captain who, if it's the same captain as before, he regularly sails up here. He'll even turn off some of the deck lights at night if there is aurora borealis. And of course, you'll see those on the northern part of Lynn Canal, like near Skagway, if you're cruising near Yakutat Bay, or even up here in Juneau. So October, it is a little bit chilly. You're not going to get the same beach experience we get in July, but no, October is also a good time. Again, they discount it for a lot of people for the wrong reasons. It's still very beautiful. I mean, even today, hopefully if the wind dies down, I can turn around and show you what I'm looking at. But, and that's the thing people don't always get to appreciate is, even if it's not sunny and perfect, even our rain is actually somewhat of a nice treat.
For the naysayers you're saying some people would rather the cruise ships don't come. What are the justifications that they use for that? I mean, obviously it's got to be the significant source of revenue that's coming into the port there. What is it that they don't want? I mean, does it keep them up at night? Does it, are there lights in their windows? What is it that they don't like?
Well, Juneau, the cruise industry has been changing. About 15 years ago, it was unheard of to have 3,000 people on a ship. And now that seems to be the norm. Royal Caribbean pushed it with the Oasis class, where they're now pushing 5,000. And there's just a lot of fear in the community that it'd be very hard to offer a good experience when there's 20,000 people out at the glacier. Or the pollution. Unfortunately, some of the cruise lines have been caught with their hands in a cookie jar dumping gray water and even raw sewage in even Glacier Bay, which is only about 100 miles from here. So there's been some times where the cruise industry hasn't quite been the best steward to Southeast Alaska, and a lot of people are not really quite enjoying that. And so that's where you get a lot of the anti-cruise sentiment. It's not the fact that we haven't turned into Key West, thank God. That was my biggest fear when I moved here. In Key West back in the early 2000s, we get a couple ships in town, you can't breathe. Duval Street is literally jam-packed. After Hurricane Wilma hit, a lot of the shops closed or sold to interests that are controlled by the cruise lines. And that's the fear here is people seem to think that South Franklin, which is where a lot of the shops are owned by the cruise lines, and that's just not the case. A lot of these businesses are locally owned. So I think that's why the impact here has been harder, because people are now realizing just how many people actually are tied to the cruise industry. And it's, while it's been devastating, we have had some good support from the state of Alaska. We've had support from the city. And with my venture, people think I'm nuts, because I think this is a perfect opportunity to try to draw on people who have been canceled, because we are expecting to open up in the next couple of weeks. We are in our final phase of COVID. So as mentioned earlier, our bars are open, our restaurants are open, social spacing guidelines have gone down. You no longer have to wear a mask every time you go outside. And then PPE is even easily accessible here. We have COVID testing. Everyone can get tested if they like. So in a way, we're ahead of the curve. But I just, there's still going to be that sentiment that people have, these feelings about the cruise ships and cruise lines that just aren't really based on fact. They're just based on hearsay, or they think that we're turning into a St. Thomas or St. Martin where, pretty much is there's a big portion of town focused only on a cruise ship.
Nate, can you talk to me? I mean, you're starting the new tour company, yeah? You're calling it's Alaska and Yukon Tours, yeah?
Right.
That's your company. I mean, there are so many excursion companies, tour companies, travel agents, all kinds of people in the industry who are struggling at the moment. So many are going bust. Well, you doing the complete opposite. You're starting this brand new excursion company. How are you doing that?
Well, being in the airline business, I work with tour operators themselves, such as Mark Travel, which used to be our version of Thomas Cook in the UK. Mark Travel owned and operated United Vacations, Delta Vacations, FunJet, and for Americans, they like having a one-stop package where you want to go to Mexico, you pay for your charter flight, hotel, transfers, everything all at once. And when all this happened and I saw things shutting down, I made a comment to a friend. I said, well, who's doing packages? Why can't we just push those? And found out there aren't any. It was even mentioned on Cruise Critic. People like having a one-stop shop that covers your airfare, your hotel, and your excursions, and that just doesn't exist here. You kind of have that in Anchorage, Fairbanks, and even the Yukon. In Whitehorse, which is not even quite the size of Juneau. They've got 17 different operators that you can buy that include your airfare from Vancouver or Edmonton, Alberta, your hotel, and all your excursions in the Yukon. And so for here, it just kind of made sense. My business with the airline industry, we lost a number of our contracts. Thankfully, I still have my part-time employment with one airline. That's been paying my bills. But the contract work was my bread and butter. And so, of course, with that, we have one contract out of 6 that remain. And for me, it's just, I saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, well, look, I started off as an intern at a travel agency at the age of 17. I was trained by a woman who became the American Society of Travel Agents Association Midwest president. So I had a very good mentor in the business. I've always been tied into the travel agency industry. And we've had one because of my business. We manage travel for airlines. So I've always had a travel agency, but I've never used it for retail services. We manage travel for airlines if they need pilots who need to go for training or new hires. So I actually already have the licensing. And of course, we have all the certifications. So for us, it's just a natural step to, hey, let's give this a shot. When the cruise lines finally cancel everything for the rest of the summer and we are open, then there's a pure opportunity to say, hey, look, for the amount of money you spent on your cruise, you can still come to Southeast Alaska. For the same amount of money you would spend on your Holland ship or Princess in Carnival, we include 4 days of excursions in Juneau, and then we pitch on a flight or a ferry to Skagway. And then once you're in Skagway, you'll have 2 days of excursions. The Yukon portion, we can't do yet until, of course, CBSA and which is Canadian Customs, allow the border to be open. But we're also going to offer Yukon in the winter for winter tourism. So that way, and that's much needed here. You'll come to Juneau for a couple of days, and then we'll pitch on a plane to Skagway or take the ferry. And then from there, you'll do your winter excursions, which include Northern Lights, dog sledding, an amazing time.
I have to ask a question because I'm a marketing guy myself. I don't suppose you have any affiliate marketing program, do you? Because I'd love to have that on my website.
Well, we will be paying the Travel Trade a commission. That's where we're going to have a separate portal through our back-end system for travel agents to actually go in and make bookings and, of course, get paid. Now, the difference with travel agent commission, and this is interesting, they only get a commission off the cruise. They don't get anything on your excursions.
Right.
And so we're going to be doing a massive reach to the travel trade and mention, look, you only made $160 on this cruise. Well, you can make $250 selling this package. That includes everything. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on once COVID comes down, once we're allowed to have travelers in Southeast, is pushing these packages because the price is actually a little bit less than than you'll spend on, for Pete. If you look at everything you would spend in all your ports, including, your excursions, any food upgrades, your cruise, your airfare, we're just below what he would spend on that cruise. So I think we definitely see a market for it. And, something else you commented on earlier is, there are a lot of companies up here, but none of them are one-stop shop. None of them offer airfare and hotel and transfers all in one package price. And there are a lot of travel agents out there who will build packages for you. However, let's be honest, most cruisers don't want to spend the time and energy to try to build all this themselves. They want to have they just want to click book and be done with it, and then go through the catalog. So I think that's where we stand out. We can customize, but we'd just much rather say, hey, here's a price for a week. You pick the date you want to come. Tell us what excursion you want to do. We'll try to make that happen. As you saw in the harbor, we can't promise everyone everything, but we'll certainly try. And the main difference between us and cruises, you come to Juneau, you can only pick one excursion. So why not pick 5?
Quick question, Nate. Can I walk off my cruise ship? Because I've never been to Alaska and having not booked anything on board. Can I walk off my cruise ship and get an excursion with your guys? Can I do that?
Well, you could, but we don't really function like that. We tend to get people who we'll mix and match. So, if one of the pictures I showed, there's some booths out there. Those are all owned by different companies and different vendors. So they're going to push their product. So, for example, if you want to go whale watching, you're going to be stuck with one company. If you want to go see the glacier, you're going to be stuck with one company. Whereas what we try to do is we try to piece things together. So we'll use Juneau Food Tours for one option, and then we'll use Alaska Adventure for another, and then Adventure Bound for another. So we try to mix and match so that way you're not stuck on a bus with 55 other people. We try to keep everything on the smaller side with that. And I think that's a big difference. And it's going to be another big point for this year is when we do open, we're not going to see those mass market pricing. And I think that's going to be a gauntlet we have to deal with because, the boats in the harbor, in front of me, you can only get 6 people on them. But yet most whale watching trips are in boats that, have a capacity of 50 to 100. So I think people who do want to come to Alaska might be a little bit shell shocked to see that the price of their excursion is going to be, $250, $300 versus, $150 US. And it's just because of the economy of scale. The big guys just can't operate. They don't have the financing available to ensure their whole fleet out there. So, yeah, when you do a cruise, you can certainly buy from the cruise line. You do get access to some protections. I'm not going to sit here and prop up Royal and Norwegian and everybody, but there are times excursions run late and you might miss the boat. Fortunate for us, it's a quick flight, to the next port.
Question,
But,
this is quite.
yeah.
I mean, Ryan's talked about that before COVID. Was there a tragic helicopter tour crash? Did that affect the industry badly in Alaska?
There's been a couple of incidents, and that it makes people aware. There was an incident in Skagway, I believe at the end of last year, involving a dog sled camp. And nature is very wild and wicked. Just like as we were setting up the video today, you turn a corner, the weather's completely different. I was out at the glacier about 20 minutes ago, and it was raining sideways. Now I'm at a harbor, and it's not even sprinkling. And so for aviation, it is a challenge. A lot of the operators do have enhanced equipment for that. 1 second.
Yeah, we're hearing the Alaska wind, aren't we?
Yeah, you are. It's better than an office, thankfully. It's nice to get outside and show people what to expect. Safety is always on the forefront to everyone. What happens though with the particular crash, there was a fjord plane crash last year. We had 2 of them. And then the helicopter incident, people just tend to shy away from those. They're not too, the adventure people still do it, but others who are on the fence just won't do it. And a lot of the helicopter excursions are on the pricier side.
Okay, Chili John. What I do, I've got Nate. You've loaded quite a lot of photographs from you and some video. Yeah, it's quite complicated to put them in different orders. So I'm going to click on a few, and maybe you can just walk us through them. And guys, John, Chili, if you've got any questions, please ask. So I'm just going to flick through these photographs you've sent me. Yeah.
Well, and this is what cruising should be like. This is on the inside passage with the Disney Wonder. Cruising is amazing in Alaska. It's not for everybody, especially after COVID, we will see some reductions. This is Juneau, what it should look like. Of course, we see 4 fairly large ships, and now we're empty. It's got quite the effect on the economy. This is the Jewel sitting in Huna. We luckily had a really nice day that day.
And this is a map that you showed as well. This gives you an idea where everything is.
Yeah, just so people kind of get an idea where Juneau's located. We're landlocked. I don't know if people realize that. We have no way in and out except for air on a flight if and when they can land, and of course the ferries. And so these are all the points that most people will see when they get on a cruise. Now with our packages, we're going to be focusing mostly on Juneau, Skagway, and Huna, which is where Icy Strait Point is. Because the rest of the state, so if you see Fairbanks, Anchorage, Homer, Whittier, and Seward, those are pretty well covered. Anyone who wants to go visit those this year, there's plenty of operators who can help arrange tours for those. But for the most part, the panhandles, they call it, so Skagway, Haines, Sitka, Juneau, Wrangell, Ketchikan, if you want to go, you either have to find an agent to build those for you or do a lot of research. And so with our packages, it'll all be a one-stop shop.
Okay, and I've got a few more here. I've done that one, haven't I? So we've got this one here.
That's actually the best way to see the glaciers. I'm actually in the spa on the Norwegian Jewel as we are going up Tracy Arm. everyone's outside where it's a little bit chilly, and I was the only one in the spa that day. It's quite lovely.
That's such a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course that's what Juneau looks like today. Well, except for the rain.
So here,
yeah, that's Skagway. That was taken about 2 weeks ago. You'll notice everything's closed. Skagway is being hit even harder than most communities. There's about 350 people who live there year round, and the town is completely empty. I think there are maybe 2 restaurants open. I think 2 bars. Now, if you want to stop at this picture for a second, these shops should be full of inventory and people. If you look in the windows, you see they're completely empty. And that is Alaska right now. A lot of the businesses are struggling and hurting. And, everyone thinks that, the cruise lines are subsidizing it. No, they're not. They're not getting any funds from that. Even the issues with payroll protection and EIDL, that just hasn't helped, and it just hasn't hit here. So yeah, this is Skagway. I mean, these streets should be full of people right now, and it's dead.
got a couple of questions here. So, are there any cruises still running, did you know, this year?
Well, it's the smaller lines are trying. American Cruise Lines just put out a request to some of the communities to allow them in. The big lines, we've got Celebrity, Royal, and Norwegian with 9 ships out of 29 are still selling cruises in August. And that's a different debate as to are they actually going to make it. To be honest, I don't see them coming. I can't see the Port of Seattle allowing cruise traffic yet. And especially in Vancouver, there's a big struggle in British Columbia between, you've got Victoria Island, which is desperate for cruise ships. They're just like us, their economy relies on it. And then Vancouver, big city, kind of, I don't want to call everyone smug down there, but it's a struggle because Victoria wants it open, Vancouver wants it closed. And so in order for these ships to traverse Alaska, they have to make one foreign stop, which involves Canada. And so we don't see Canada lifting their ban anytime soon. There are rumblings that people will get waivers to the Jones Act, which is the law that prohibits foreign flag vessels from stopping, and doing domestic trips. And if Norwegian wanted to really do it, they could just send a Pride of America, which is a U.S. flag ship. But of course, we don't see that one happening. I know they want to do it, but Holland has pulled everything. Holland America, Princess have pretty much pulled everything. Carnival's pulled out. Again, we've gone from 29 ships down to 9, and a lot of us are just we're hoping for a season, but we're not counting on it.
One more question before I bring Chili and John back into it. Diane has asked, do you definitely recommend both the cruise and land train tours when visiting Alaska?
Well, I have my own opinion. I would do a cruise and then your own land package. Do it on your own. This way you're not being forced on a bus with other people. You're not stuck to a particular itinerary. See it on your own time. And I think that's why I'm grateful I took my Alaska cruise a couple of years ago, even though I live here. I used my airline discount and was shocked at the rate we paid. You see it at a different pace. On a cruise ship, you're forced. You're always looking at your watch going, crap, what is ship's time? What time do you have to be back? And everyone's rushing, and you're stuck to that schedule. So I think that for anyone who really wants to see the real Alaska, don't do the train, the land train and cruise package. You can really easily do it on your own. Now, if you're a little bit older, or you'd rather have someone show you around, then it's definitely good value. But I think what we hear the most are the cruise ship people feel rushed.
John.
And I embrace the words that you said. The cruise ship people feel rushed, and that's of course because the cruise ships are on this schedule. But that's easy for the travel agent to sign up and here you go, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
So to add it on, I think the big question is, though, do you suggest flying there, doing your tour, picking up the ship and coming back home, or picking up the ship, going there on the ship, then doing your tour and flying back home? Which order would you do it in?
Well, that's really up to you. For Juneau, my tour packages for what we offer aren't necessarily for the cruise ship traveler. They're more for the independent. So it's for people who want to do more than just the whale watching trip in town. So we'll be offering, again, Tracy Arm, which, again, you got to go through the shore excursions and pick what are you going to do and rank them. So with our packages, it includes your hotel here in town, your transfers, and then up to 4 days of excursions. The week-long trip, it even includes 2 days in Skagway, and I think I included some video there. Because when you're on a cruise ship, you don't see Alaska for what it really is.
Oh, no, I totally agree. That's what I'm saying, though. Go on the cruise ship, get off and walk the towns, have that adventure. But then now I want to take your ride. I want to, just live it. So, but I don't want to go to Alaska twice.
Yeah, very true. For this, I think Holland America this year is going to try something different. They were going to have 3 and 4 day cruises to Skagway. And then from Skagway, you branch off and do more land tours. That's when something like what we offer fits in better with that itinerary.
Yeah.
Otherwise, most itineraries are Seward to Vancouver, or Seward, to Seattle, or Vancouver northbound. So really, for us, what we're offering you is a different way to see Alaska. It's for people who don't necessarily want to be on a cruise ship, and we're going to get that. Unfortunate to the news. And again, being a travel agent, we get the travel trade news. Clea's right. The cruise lines got beat up after COVID because of 3 ships. And when you look at it, there were 380 sailings at the time that Princess ship got denied entry in Japan. Yet we never heard about those other cruises. You just heard about the 2 that made the news. And of course, I don't know how the worldwide media compares to the States, but man, you couldn't turn your TV off and Princess. I mean, that's all you could hear. And then it just gets people.
The wind just got him then. Have we lost you? We lost your sound, I think. Nate?
Yeah, they're good. I put it on mute when it gets a little windy. And that just gave the anti-cruise sentiment Juno fuel. The people who want to keep this for themselves, who don't understand the value of cruising. So what I recommend, so we will have packages for cruise ship people, but we're not necessarily the kind you want to buy right off the dock.
I've got a few more photos to put up, and then I'll bring Chili back in again. Just go through the photographs here, please, Nate.
So, and this is what we see when you come into Juneau. This is the Mendenhall Glacier from the Alaska Airlines airplane. This is on the flight between Whitehorse and Juneau. Again, this is stuff you don't see on a cruise ship. That's where we're a good alternative, for people who otherwise would want to cruise. This is a flight, you're going to laugh. This is a normal flight between Skagway and Juneau. This is on top of Mendenhall Glacier.
What are we flying there? This
is a Cessna Caravan 208.
Most popular plane for that. Really nice.
Oh, yeah. And very safe. You're seeing, with our tour, you're going to see views that you would spend $400 to see with somebody else. Well, with us, it's included.
Okay.
And this is just south of Skagway. This is, my commute to work. I'm blessed with that. when I have to go to Whitehorse for work. And this is just what I think people need to understand is, you see something different when you do a land package versus a cruise ship. Cruise ship is great to get you interested in the destination, who are interested in learning about the region. And then a lot of times people want to come back. So by no means am I saying stop cruising. I'm just saying if you really want to see Alaska, the best way is by, coming back and actually spending time here. So that way you're not rushed.
Sorry, Chili. One for very, very quickly. Are your packages and tours solo friendly? And Diane?
To some extent, yes. The biggest expense we have is the hotel. So, luckily we have some very, very attractive rates with some of the properties in town. And the challenge with that would just be with the excursions, because what we try to do is about a week before your trip is when we align everyone with the excursion. So that way we don't have operators going out with 1 and 2 people. And if we are below minimum, then my company eats the cost. So, there is a chance that you might be the only one on a whale watching trip. And that's kind of the big difference. So right now, if Diane were to, who's been asking questions, if you call someone right now and say, hey, I want to go out on a whale watching trip, that quote's going to be $600 US. It's not going to be the 150 on the ship. And so what we try to do is, as people buy these packages, we then align the dates so that way we know, okay, Thursday we can do whale watching. Friday we'll put everyone on Tracy Arm, which is a full day excursion. You know, and then maybe Saturdays when people want to go fishing.
Chili.
Yeah, I've got a question simply because it's me. How much trouble does someone have with mobility issues on your packages?
Really, that's how we try to customize it for the person. So luckily the hotels, they're all ADA compliant. You know, we're not dealing with the big boats. So there are little ramps for, like, especially here in the harbor, to get people on and off the vehicles. And then a couple of the car rental agencies in town, because we will be offering car with some, you know, even have access to some larger vehicles to assist with that. You know, but again, when you're on an independent tour, you know, that's the challenge, is like the flight to Skagway. You know, you do need to be able to get up and down the stairs to get in the airplane. You know, the seats aren't your normal airline type seats. These seats can actually be, and I should have included a picture. The way the flights here in regional Southeast Alaska work is, you know, if there's like 2 people on the plane, sorry,
That's the wind come up again. So you just muted his mic while the wind's come up, and then Nate will come back on again and carry on.
So if there's only 2 people on a flight, they'll load the plane up with cargo, so they take those seats out. You know, I mean, flying to Haines, Alaska, I've had a wolverine on my airplane before, and it was in a big metal drum. That's all you could hear for the whole flight was growling, you know, the wolverine in the back.
Did his claws come out ever? I mean,
Well, they had little holes in the drum, but of course signs to not poke it. You know, and of course people at the airport were all trying to poke it, and I'm just like thinking, oh no, you know. So for mobility issues, you know, that's where we'll have to have some limitations on it. It will be harder to do a day trip to Hoona, you know, for bear watching, just because it is a smaller plane to Hoona. You know, the companies we work with do their best, you know, but unfortunately this isn't wheel on, wheel off like you can on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
But Chili, I always want to go on a bear watching trip with you, Chili.
Well, thanks a lot.
Well, because,
Yeah.
well,
Oh yeah, it's great.
because I got a better chance of getting back to the plane than you do. So, yeah,
Well,
you know, so
what's funny is we get bears in downtown Juneau. You know, it's like we wake up in the morning and they're going through our garbage. So, you know, I always laugh with people when they come to Juneau. They're like, oh, I want to go see eagles. I'll take them to McDonald's, you know, because they're right there. You know, we go to the dump. And, you know, that's the thing. When you see it from a local perspective versus, you know, some of these bigger excursions, you see a whole different Alaska than you would with
Got a
master.
few more photos to put up, guys. Then I'll come back to you, to Chili and John again. Just talk us through these again, please.
So these are just some pictures just to show people what you're missing out on. Again, there's no boats out. So you might be the only one out there looking at whales. There's been a lot more action on kayaks. This is a Tracy Arm tour that we're working with, Adventure Bound with. And so their boat only gets a maximum of about 30 to 40 people on board. And so that's a much different experience than if you, you know, were to go with the mass operators. These are Northern Lights in the winter, you know, and that's the thing people don't realize is that we do get Northern Lights here in Southeast. It's a little rare, but when they do come out, it's pretty amazing.
And that's in October. I might see them in mid-October as well then, Nate.
You might even see them in August.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's Juneau with one of the ferries in the background. That's Auk Bay. These are the hot springs and Whitehorse. You know, people think of the Yukon as closing down in the winter. It actually gears up. So when it's minus 40 Celsius or Fahrenheit, it's actually kind of nice to go in that water, which is right about 110, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Winter packages will include dog sledding, also up in the Yukon.
I mean, that's one of the things I'd love to do. I have to say that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's stuff you can't do on a cruise ship.
it's one of the bucket list things.
Yeah. And 1 second, if you go back to that photo. This is actually on the Klondike Highway between Skagway and Carcross and Whitehorse. I mean, this is, again, you don't see this in the cruise ship season because they don't come up here in the winter. But, you know, the roads, as you can see, are very clear. They're safe. The lake below, people tend to go, I guess the word is kiteboarding, but on a snowboard.
Wow. It's absolutely stunning. And there.
Skagway in the winter, still alive. You know,
Wow.
Alaska is much different in the winter when there's snow on the ground.
Back to John again. I've got a few more photos to put up as well. So John, back to you again, my friend.
Well, that looked like the last picture you showed there. That looks like April in Minnesota. So not that's April in Minnesota there. So not so bad, but
that's August in England, yeah.
August. No, the snow. That was snow on the ground. I've only seen Alaska from the land side. I've never actually been to the water, but enjoyed every minute of it. And of course, northern Minnesota, where I live, we enjoy the bears, and there's 100 eagles just within 5 miles of here too. So it is an interesting thing, isn't it? Traveling into Canada a lot, we would see people with skis on their cars in June, and you're asking them, where are you going? And they're going, well, we're going skiing. And they're going, and it's like, well, just how far are you planning to drive before you're going to hit some skiing weather? But I guess anything for everybody. Some questions have gone by here, and I'd like you to answer them rather than me. How safe is it? And I think the safety issue, people ask when we go to Barcelona or when we go to St. Thomas, when they're asking about safety is, pickpockets, getting beat up, just, what's the safety factor? Not in Mother Nature so much, but just walking down the street. How tight do I have to hold my purse or my hotel room and things?
Well, right now you're fine. Unfortunately, the people who do try to scam people, COVID's even kind of put them away. So right now town's pretty quiet. And what's interesting is, the public shaming that occurs when people do get robbed or theft. People show pictures all the time on our internal Facebook groups for Juneau and even Whitehorse. So crime is pretty low. I don't even like my door at my house.
Diane said hotel rates are pretty much double priced, she said, for single occupancy, I think. Yeah, is that correct?
Yeah, it is. So if we get a rate from a hotel, what we do is, so you'll spend 5 nights in Juneau. So the biggest expense on our packages aren't the hotel, it's the excursions. And so, the price difference between single and double occupancy really isn't a lot. You'll still spend a pretty penny for everything, but it's not quite as bad as a cruise ship, which, as we've seen, especially on the Cruises for Solos Facebook group, it's a joy when we don't have to see it. But yeah, no, we're not quite that. The price difference just isn't horrible, thankfully.
Emily asked, what are the chances of seeing whales for the whale watching excursion?
Well, it's just like everything. It's always a crapshoot. I'm kind of watching here in the harbor to see if we see anything, because there are whales even in this harbor. We'll see some occasional humpbacks come in here and orcas. It's hit or miss. And I think that's where having mass tourism helps, because a lot of the operators do talk to each other. I joke with friends, we don't need to go pay for a whale watching trip. We'll just go to the shoreline and wait. Even Lena Point. So Lena Point, there's a bench out there. It's about a 1/4 mile walk if you're okay walking on planks, and you can go out there and sit. You'll see something. But yeah, in terms of watching, it's easy to predict because they're always in certain areas. And right now, about 3 weeks ago, we were out camping, and all we heard all night long were whales breaching. So, the difference is, on the shore, you don't quite see it as up close as you would on a boat. But no, they're here. COVID hasn't stopped them at all. They're enjoying all the fish, actually. Less fishermen means more fish for them.
Talking of fish, sorry to interrupt you, Nate. Yeah, Brenda loved fishing Alaska. She says the salmons are huge, great experience.
Oh, yeah. And the salmon, you typically will see those towards the end of the cruise ship season. Like right now, they're all spawning. Actually, I don't think they're spawning yet, but some of the salmon aren't quite the size that you'll see in August, and even October you won't see as many. But yeah, the fish are definitely big. Everything's big up here.
Chili.
Do you ever get tired of the seafood?
I don't eat seafood.
Ah,
I'm the only one. My friends, they love going to Tracy's and halibut fishing, and it's for me. I had an issue when I was a kid, and I've tried billfish in the Bahamas a couple years ago, and it just kind of made my stomach churn. So, but yeah, it's everywhere up here. My friends take their boats out all the time, and they're catching quite a bit.
A few more photographs. I'll just go through them very quickly.
This, again, Aurora Borealis, this is taken from my cell phone. This is not even a professional photograph. That's how bright they are here. at times. And of course, this is in the Yukon, further north.
Incredible. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's in Carcross.
Wow.
So we're just
Okay.
trying to give people the full experience. That is the Lacani. It's one of the ferries that goes up and down Lynn Canal. I mean, look at that. You know, this is where I feel bad for cruisers who come to Alaska because they're missing out on this view because you guys are all sleeping or you're in the buffet line. You know, the cruise ships miss the most beautiful part of Alaska, you know, while they transit. And, you know, and that's the thing people miss out on. That's the view from the ferry. Again, broad daylight up and down Lynn Canal, which is what everyone traverses going to Skagway.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Juneau right now, it's Seward. You know, we're all being safe.
So this is how you're dealing with COVID at the moment.
Yeah. Well, luckily we've only had a couple, you know, and great news, you know, everything's opening. You know, we've been below the curve. You know, there's a lot of discussions about how to treat tourists, you know, so we don't have to do the 14-day quarantine. Luckily in town, you know, we've got access to testing. So if any of you come up, you can go straight from the airport, go get tested and go sit in your hotel room. And after that's up to you. But typically you get your results in about a day.
I have a question.
We're very fortunate about that being in Alaska.
One question I have. So my first time in Alaska, what is the absolute must-do thing for me to go to? I must do it. Absolutely must do it. What would you say it is?
Oh, man, that's a toss-up. I do it all. Everyone, of course, you've got the glaciers that you can't quite experience anywhere else. And tracing arm tour, for sure. And that's if your ship doesn't go up it.
Yeah, throw fishing rod off the back, you said.
Probably could. The ferries go right about 17 to 20 knots. So they're a little bit on the faster side. So you might catch something. Just and even on the ferry that they'll announce wildlife most of the time. So this is the wharf, or this is the hangar at the wharf. This is a restaurant almost everyone in town goes to, especially the tourists. This is in a big blue building. And as you can see in terms of social spacing, you know, they've been very smart about it. Normally this bar is packed. You know, you can't get a seat. You're going to wait half an hour to get in there. The views are amazing. But, you know, this is just what Juneau's been dealing with, you know, as a reduction in the cruise ship season. This is on board the ferry. You know, this isn't quite a cruise ship, but there's a lot of space. There's some nice tables. There's power outlets. Unfortunately, you know, Wi-Fi. But, you know, when you take the ferry, it's a relaxing trip. You know, nice big windows. The chairs are fairly comfortable. And so with our Skagway trip, which is part of our 7-day package, you know, you'll fly one way and you'll take the ferry back on the other, or you'll take a catamaran. So that way you can see everything in the daylight, which is just phenomenal.
John.
I guess one of the big questions is, how does someone get a hold of you to do this? Any travel agent can start booking you now?
Not yet. We have to wait until COVID comes down. And my marketing folks are still working on the website. So the website that's up temporarily is just a placeholder. But it's AlaskaYukonTours.com. And we'll have a handful of options for people probably right around towards the end of the first week of June. And airfares are ridiculously cheap right now. I mean, we're seeing prices as low as $100 each way between Seattle and Juneau. And typically in the summertime, it's about $300. You know, people spend more money coming to Juneau and Whitehorse than they do Europe. And this year, that's not the case.
So, Nate, how often do you cruise?
Well, I used to hate cruises, you know, living in Key West. And it wasn't until a friend who used to be a cruise director with Holland America took us on the Sky. When I was living in Florida, we did the 3-night booze cruise. And I know, bad boy. But, you know, of course, people kind of even raised their nose at the Norwegian Sky. But it was a very fun experience. You know, we went to Nassau, which, you know, I worked there. So for me, it wasn't a big deal. Hit Freeport. It was a very enjoyable experience. And so after that, it was kind of nice having someone else drive for once. You know, it was nice. You know, I'm younger than the three of you, and it was nice crawling back to my room, you know, instead of having to worry about driving. And then the whole, you know, Norwegian got me hooked, you know, of course, with the hat, with the, you know, the beverage plan was great. but of course, finding those particular few bartenders and providing some good tips. So I try to do 1 or 2 a year, and they tend to be very last minute, because we own a travel agency. We're on all the email lists from, Princess and Cunard and Disney and Holland America, Carnival, Norwegian. So we see the cheap cruises. I'm like, oh, what are we doing this weekend? All right. And it's actually what happened in first week of March. We had a cruise booked on the Bliss for March 23rd, and I kind of knew COVID was going to mess some stuff up. And a friend who works at Norwegian sent me an email for friends and family for March 1st, and it was $199 for a balcony cabin on the Jewel. I'm like, what?
Wow.
And so I actually went on the Jewel on March 1st, and it was amazing because of how clean the ship was.
That's the Tom for 2022.
Yeah, well, and it was just I've never seen anything so clean my entire life. The Jewel was cleaner than any hospital I've been at. They were running around 3 times a day, and not in hazmat suits. Norwegian was very discreet about it, but they were even cleaning the elevator buttons. I don't really do the buffet. I like the great outdoors. I love sitting out on the back of the ship with the canopy overhead and drinking and eating. And even in the buffet, and even in the buffet, they're replacing the tongs like every hour. There's a woman with a cart, and this is before COVID, is really rampant, and everyone felt safe. No one on our ship got sick, and I think that people need to, realize that I think the cruise lines are doing their best. They're not floating Petri dishes. Norwegian has signs everywhere. Not Holland America, use a towel to open the door. There's a towel dispenser. So I think from COVID, we'll see a lot of changes versus like even Royal Caribbean, Oasis of the Seas. You go to the bathroom, the doors are automatic, but yet you need to wash your hands. You have to actually turn on the faucet.
Yeah, so I agree with you. Question, Nate, just saying that if someone mobility issues, trouble walking, I have trouble speaking, as you can see. Would they be able to ride the duck tours?
I think the duck tour is only down in Ketchikan, and I think they do have an ADA compliant boat, but I don't think they're operating this year. There's a regulation with insurance actually where you either have to insure your whole fleet or none of your fleet. And so like Holland America has, I think, 60 buses here in town. And so they can't run one tour with one bus. They have to insure all 60 buses. And that's a few $1,000s each. Same thing with the boats. The Juno Tours runs handful of water excursions with boats that are 50 passenger, but they still got the wrap on them because they can't pull one boat out and offer tours this summer because the insurance. They have to take them all. And because of that, again, is why I think we're going to have a much different tourism this summer because the big guys just won't operate. They can't afford it.
I mean, Alaska is, for me, guys, obviously I'm in the UK, you guys are in the States. So obviously, for me, Alaska is one of those most incredible bucket list places I have to do. It just looks absolutely beautiful. It's a place I have to want to go to. A quick question here. Where do you eat and drink locally? Where do you go?
Where do we go? Well, actually, right behind me, there's actually a very popular restaurant, Devil's Hideaway. It's in a bar called Squires, kind of right up the hill. So we go there. We do go to the hangar at the wharf. A lot of places are still closed, like Twisted Fish, which is done by the docks. They're closed. Tracy's Crab Shack is still closed. I think she was going to look at being open on the weekends. The bars stay open year round. We can do the Duval crawl here if we need to.
Right, John.
The Duval crawl, that is a world famous thing for those that know.
It is.
Fortunately, I never did do it, and now it would be in my past. I could never do it, so that's a good thing. So that's a good thing. But Alaska is really neat. I actually worked up there in a place called the Copper King Cabaret, now long closed, before you were even born. And it was an adventure and a half that I never, ever want to repeat again in my life. But as a young, just turned 21 guy, it was a real adventure. So really neat. Well, this has really been fun having you on the show here. It looks like you've got something exciting that's going to come to pass. That you have an obligation to us now. We want to talk to you again next year and see both how this COVID thing has turned out, but just also, you know, we want to see how it's working, taking people on the kind of adventure that you, as somebody that's really spent a lifetime in the travel business, you've envisioned this thing, and now we want to see how, you know, how that's come to pass and see just what kind of experience people are having doing what you think is the way to see Alaska. Because I'm telling you, as I listen to it, I'm hooked. You got me like a salmon with one of them big silver hooks in my jaw here. I'm telling you. So.
Well, and like I said before, you know, if you just wait a couple of minutes, you know, I mean, if you guys can see behind me, it's cleared up.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing you don't.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I think we lost Nate.
It's cleared up, and that's the. I mean, I don't know if we're going to loop or we've lost Nate or not, but if we have lost Nate, you can obviously watch this on playback as well. Nate, thank you so much. He's just disappeared into the middle of Alaska somewhere.
Well, I guess my timing was just perfect on that.
Yeah,
huh?
it was. I believe, folks, we have lost Nate, lost the signal. So again, I'll throw my thanks in. This has been a great show. Absolutely. I'm like you, John. He hooked me in the first 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, it sounds wonderful. And you know, from the north, we do the same kind of thing in northern Minnesota, not the Alaska experience, but the Minnesota experience. And everything that he's talking to us about is right there. It sounds really wonderful, and he sounds like an operator that cares about you down to the person, and that's really the nice thing about it. So
not only that, John, Nate got me so much here. I even forgot to put my light on. So if you're wondering why I'm slightly dark, it's because
I usually remind you. That's my bad.
I'm so listening to what Nate has to say that I've completely forgot to do so. I'm looking at my light. I have a light, guys, that lights me because look how dark I look. Yep. So, Chili, thank you again so much. John, thank you again. Nate, it's been an absolute pleasure. We really look forward, as the guy said, to you coming back. You keep posting from Alaska and you let us know how you get on. It all sounds absolutely incredible, and I just cannot wait to go. Yeah. So thank you very much indeed. I'm going to end the broadcast. So everybody, please stay safe. And if you're watching the playback, please stay safe as well. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Bye.
See you next week.
Bye. Sorry.
Oh, Nate's back. So he just went off the air, and Nate's back.
We're still live. We're still on the air.
No.
All right. The challenge of Alaska is our internet's not that good.
We are still on the air.
Oh, we are still on.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Okay, I thought we'd gone. Okay, Nate.
Before you do, I gotta go, guys. Ronnie had a little problem with his back. I gotta run, take him to the doctor.
Okay.
We'll talk to you all soon.
See you, John.
Nate, thank you so much. Please keep us in touch. Yeah.
Thank you're welcome. Yeah. Sorry about that. The Wi-Fi card also went out. So it's just one of the challenges living up here in Alaska. Wi-Fi is not that good, nor is cell phone service.
Yeah. I mean, it's been absolutely exciting. I cannot wait to visit you. Unfortunately, it's 2022. It seems forever, but it just looks like the most amazing, beautiful place. It really does.
Oh, it's lovely. All right, let's keep our fingers crossed for November 23rd.
Sounds good.
Everything crossed. Right. So I will end the broadcast now. So guys, please say thank you. Bye, Nate. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.